Hi, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome to ReDIScover, a space where we celebrate the childlike qualities that make up the essence of who we are while engaging with the world around us, both authentically and imaginatively.
Nothing is off the table here, and we talk a little bit...
or a lot.
About, well, everything.
Around here, we're always rediscovering, sharing empowering stories, and connecting our hearts and minds with every facet of life.
While we, of course, talk about the real stuff,
we invite you to be a part of the conversation as we broaden our perspectives, release limitations,
and grow to create our most joyful and fulfilling lives together.
So come along with us as we rediscover all the best parts of you
and bring a little bit of magic into your day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome back to this week's episode of ReDIScover, where we are rediscovering the other half of the Disneyland Resort, Disney's California Adventure.
I'm so excited because I think that this is my favorite of the 6 parks in the continental US. Bold statement, I know. I think it is. Me, myself, and I go back and forth about this a lot, but it's just so unique. It's entirely one of a kind. I feel like it's the Disney Sea of America. Like it's just a park that couldn't exist anywhere else. And it's such a celebration of the Golden Coast and all of the beautiful natural diversity of California and all of the Disney stories that kind of get interwoven into that. And there's some exciting new things there.
California Adventure really is a unique place. If you have not been to the West Coast yet, the Disneyland Resort is set up very differently, where you can actually walk from Disneyland Park, so like their Magic Kingdom, to California Adventure in a matter of minutes, steps. You can see it from the entrance of one to the other, which is really cool because, I mean, sometimes I'll go on a ride in Disneyland and I'll hop over to California Adventure and go on another one, or have dinner in one park and go back to the other. It's super convenient and the location's great. And then the actual park itself is just, like Kristen said, very different and it's just fun. It's not the most like cohesive flow. It's just like chunked together in ways that make you feel like you're in a different place all in one park.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. It really is. It really is. And I think where, Disneyland is all of these seamless transitions from land to land, although each land is unique and, walking from Frontierland to Fantasyland, it's not the same story. There is a cohesion there. Mm-hmm. This feels less cohesive, but not in a bad way, just in sort of this like exciting, like what's around the corner kind of way. Like I'm going to turn
like an adventure,
like an adventure. Yeah.
So we'll get started right at the front of the park. Of course, when you walk into California Adventure, you are actually stepping foot onto Buena Vista Street. So this is rewinded back into the golden ages of Hollywood. It has all of those really fun big band music vibes, and it's just a blast. You'll oftentimes see characters dressed for the era, which I think is really unique. You don't see those outfits anywhere else, especially at Walt Disney World. That's definitely unique to California Adventure. I don't know if they still have him meeting at the front, but Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, Walt's original character, even before Mickey Mouse, actually was back when I worked there in like 2014, but he would meet guests right when you walked into California Adventure, which I just think is such a cool tribute to the original startup of Walt Disney's entire journey.
I can confirm that he is back.
Thank God.
I love that. I love that he's there. I got so excited the first time I saw him there. He is the cutest, besides Mickey, of course. But I did see on I think it was someone's Instagram story the other day, I forget who, they were walking out of the park and Oswald was right at the front.
Yeah. And if you don't know the story of Oswald, really quick, I'll just share it with you. But Walt actually drafted up Oswald as a character before Mickey, and even had a bunch of shorts made about Oswald. And that was going to be his like main character, but there was an issue with studio agreements and legal, and Walt actually lost the rights to Oswald. So in the loss of Oswald, he got inspired to create Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
But we love Oswald and we love Mickey, of course. So
a true night is darkest just before the dawn situation.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I love that he is there at the front of the park because it really does, especially for, the like Disney history buffs and the Disney fans, people who love not just the parks or the films, but just the whole story of the company and Walt, especially because you really do step back into this, 1920s era Hollywood that Walt would have first arrived in, and all of the kind of Art Deco, like very like 20s into Depression era Art Deco architecture, and all of the stores, even the interiors of the stores on Buena Vista Street are very well themed. And the music, as Jess said, is very like big band swing, jazzy. The cable car is actually connected to a cable, and it actually does travel the length of Buena Vista Street. And sometimes Mickey and the gang do a little Newsies-esque number.
Suitcase and a
dream. Now it's going to be stuck in your head for the rest of the day. The other end of the street, there's so much live entertainment at Disneyland specifically. And I know that like being proximate to LA and everything, you have a lot of talent locally, but California Adventure has so much live entertainment, and it is all so good. And at the end of Buena Vista Street, right in front of Carthay Circle, there is a jazz group called Five and Dime, and they are phenomenal. And it's very like Roaring 20s, stylized versions of either old songs or new songs, kind of rearranged into that style. And it's so good. And nothing is more fun than getting an ice cream bar from Clarabelle's.
I was going to say this exact thing.
And watching Five and Dime. So good.
Yeah, at Clarabelle's, you can get a hand-dipped ice cream bar. So you get to pick what type of chocolate you get, and then what type of topping. I love the Mickey sprinkles. They're really good.
Duh.
But yeah, Buena Vista Street has the ambiance. It's the introduction. It is the perfect start of your adventure.
Yeah, I love the kind of Carthay Circle being the sort of park icon of Disney California Adventure, since the park was totally overhauled back in, was it like 2013-ish, maybe before then?
I feel like it was even before that.
Might have been before then.
I don't remember.
Probably like a decade or so, maybe even more ago. But Carthay Circle is a restaurant that is modeled after the Carthay Circle Theater in LA, where Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs first premiered in 1937. It is Great Gatsby vibes on the inside. It's gorgeous.
I love it.
The food is phenomenal. The experience is wonderful. The music, just the like velvets and the dark woods and the lighting and everything just feels very, I don't know, just like harkens back to it, a time that really like never existed, or maybe did in some capacity, but it's like the perfect convergence of the old Hollywood glamour with Disney storytelling. It's beautiful, and it sort of flows us into what I like to call the junior Hollywood studios.
It is really. There are a few things on that street that are worth mentioning, but I would say the absolute number one is the Disney Animation Building. You can do a drawing class, you can meet some characters. We've had an animation building like that before at Walt Disney World, but this one is really special because you go in and there are screens that like 360 surround you, and they have Disney songs playing on a loop from so many different films. It's like a really emotional and beautiful journey, and they really tap into anyone and everyone. Like, I know there's Mulan, there's Aladdin and Jasmine, there's everything. It's so beautiful. And I honestly will just go in there, not to do any activities, but just to go in and sit there and look around at the animation.
Yeah. And not that it rains very often in California, but if it happens to rain when you're there, it's a great rainy day spot. It's a great hot afternoon spot. It's a great, I don't know, chilly evening spot. It's just a great place to go. And like you said, not even do anything, although there's plenty to do. But just, I have a story to tell everyone about the animation building at Disney California Adventure. that I feel like we've told before. We may have told this story in the friendship episode.
Every time we talk about the animation building, it unlocks my memory because like it's a story that I know and then I forget and then I'm like, oh yeah, animation.
Yeah, I know. I forgot about it too until I was thinking about, this episode and all the things we wanted to touch on. And oh gosh, this was the week of Disneyland's 60th anniversary in 2015. And for those of you who haven't heard our story,
listen to the friendship episode.
But essentially, Jess and I had obviously lost touch for quite a few years at this point. It's been like 2 or 3. Yeah. And we just ran into each other. We kind of were having this like convergence of humans on this particular day.
And their mother was at Disneyland this week.
Yes.
Like everyone from Florida gravitated to California.
Yes. We all just came to California for the 60th. And I was with several friends. And I think like some of your friends knew some of my friends. And we all just ended up in the animation building because this was actually one of the rare moments when it did rain in California. It was a rainy day that day. And we all ended up in there. And I don't like totally remember. I have this like memory in my mind of us seeing each other. I don't know like who came up to who. All I remember is we just started like hugging and sobbing. And I for the longest time, the shirt that I was wearing that day that I had like mascara stains from you crying on it. And I like refused to get rid of that shirt because I was like, look, Jess cried on me. There was such a heightened emotion that week in general. Just everyone was feeling all the like Disney nostalgic feels. And there's no one I feel more nostalgic about when I think about Disney than you. So it was just this beautiful, magical Disney moment.
It was. I'm glad we got to throw in our personal antidote to the animation building in this episode. There's not too much else on this street, but there are a few other couple notables. Number one, they do have Mickey's PhilharMagic here, which is awesome because it is restored and in very high quality. I don't know what the status of that is at Walt Disney World anymore. I haven't been there in about a year, but the California Adventure PhilharMagic is crisp. It is clear. It looks great. And the other thing that is important to mention about Hollywoodland is in the back corner, there is a Monsters, Inc. dark ride called Monsters, Inc. Mike and Sully to the Rescue, which is honestly sometimes it's one of those things that it's one of those rides, it exists, but you kind of forget about it. And then you remember and you're like, oh my God, it's so cute. But it's essentially a dark ride where you go through the story of Monsters, Inc. And it was definitely made in the early 2000s. And it has all of that charm, especially if you're a Walt Disney World goer and you've never been over there before. It's worth doing because it's something we don't have at all.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's
super fun.
It's cute. We have to go to the newest part of Disney California Adventure now because that's just the way things flow.
Yes. We'll start with something that's sort of old.
Something
sort of new.
Something old and new. Are we at a wedding or DCA? I'm confused.
Both.
So the kind of transitional piece as you walk from Hollywoodland to the next part of the park is Tower of Terror. As many of you know, Tower of Terror was revamped, I don't know, 5-6-ish years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
To Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. So totally getting into the Marvel Cinematic Universe here. This ride caused some controversy when it was redone. People were purists about the original. There was that whole #NotMyTower thing.
Oh my gosh.
To piggyback after the #NotMyPresident thing. And
this must have been 2016.
It must have. I think, you know what I think it was. And then you ride it and you're like, okay, I can't lie. That was awesome. Yeah. It is totally a preservation of like the original ride vehicle concept, but taken up a notch. The music is 80s. The whole vehicle like jumps up and down to the beat of the music. As we mentioned in the Disneyland episode, Disneyland is so good at doing seasonal overlays. And this attraction gets an epic Halloween overlay called Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout Monsters After Dark, I believe.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's just such a cool version of the ride. It's after a certain time of day, like after I think like 3 or 4 p.m. or something, the ride gets a totally different overlay.
And depending on which elevator you get into, you have a different song. So it does change depending on the ride. My personal favorite is the Jackson 5 song.
Yeah.
So much fun. I love that
So
song.
fun.
But yeah, it's a blast. And if you liked Tower of Terror, or if you liked Guardians of the Galaxy, or you just like to have fun, it's a great ride to go on. I think from there, we will continue on into Avengers Campus, which I frankly really don't know that much about, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So
this is all Kristen.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's go. I was so excited when I found out that one of the US parks was going to get some Marvel love, especially after Guardians turned out to be like such a runaway hit. I was so thrilled that we were getting something in the US. And once I saw what the space allotted for Avengers Campus was, I was like, okay, it's kind of small. Like I kind of went into it with lowish expectations, but Disney proves you wrong time and again with how much they're able to pack into a land, a park, a ride. And I was super pleasantly surprised and pretty blown away, especially at night. Avengers Campus is so cool. Just the music is epic, obviously, and everything is larger than life. You really do get a piece of so many different things. You get Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, and you get like the Ant-Man references. You get the huge Avengers headquarters building with the Quinjet on top. And it really is extremely immersive. The main attraction is the new Spider-Man Web Slingers ride. It is kind of closely related to like a Toy Story Mania-ish. You walk in the main entrance, and that's the first area you come to is the web headquarters, and you'll see the Spider-Man demonstration that they do sometimes throughout the day and the web slingers queue. And then further on from there, you'll see the Doctor Strange area on one side, and then Pym's test kitchen on the other side, where ordering food there is always a fun adventure. You might get a gigantic chicken sandwich on a teeny tiny bun, or
that's so funny,
tiny little baby spaghetti and meatballs. It's very interesting. Then you kind of get out into the main area and you just see the headquarters building and like hear the epic music. It's really, really cool. It's like a nerd out moment for any Marvel fan.
Marvel is a huge franchise, of course, but what else is a huge franchise, you ask? Well, Disney, Pixar, Cars.
Oh, it's equally, I would say, definitely on a level with each other as far as revenue and popularity.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. It just so happens that these two lands are neighbors, and it works out really well because I love them both so very much. I'm going to let you start with Cars, because once I get on this,
you're going to go on a roll.
I'm going to get my kicks on Route 66 and ride it all the way.
Oh my God. Buckle up. Pun intended. All joking aside, Cars Land, I think, is probably one of Disney's most impressive lands to date in any of the parks worldwide. It is unbelievably beautiful and detailed, and you really feel like you're transported into the movie when you're there. The details are so good, down to the stoplight. One of the lines in Cars is that the stoplight blinks and every third blink is slower. There's so much to explore. There's multiple rides, there's shops, there's cones where you can get snacks. I'm going to just talk about the big ride, and then I'll let you get into the nitty gritty details, because I know that's where you thrive. But the main ride at Cars Land is called Radiator Springs Racers, kind of similar to Test Track, but way better in my opinion. You are in a car, you go through, some little antics within the Cars universe. You see Mater cow tipping and all that. But then the real best part of the ride is when you go and you race and you are speeding through the canyons alongside another car. And it's beautiful. You feel like you're in the desert. You feel like you're really there. And it blows my mind that it's a theme park and that they built this. The rock structures look so realistic. And it's great. It's such a good land, just by far and away one of their absolute best.
Well, Jess, I could not agree more.
I'm going to take a seat.
Cars was never my favorite Pixar movie, but the scenery in the film is beautiful. Those sprawling deserts and the cacti and the sleepy little town in the middle of nowhere. And it's so like unlike anything that I'm used to, being from the Northeast and now living in the Southeast. That whole desert thing is such an anomaly to me. I don't understand it, but it's so cool. And they recreated it so spectacularly. You walk in, the 1950s music playing. You have what is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated attractions of all time on your left when you first walk in, and that is Mater's Junkyard Jamboree. Don't knock it till you try it, kids. It is a rusty fever dream. That's
a great description.
It is hilarious. It's frumpy. It is. It's frumpy. It's wild. It's weird. I think if we have to pull it out for anything, we pull it out for Mater. We have to. You get inside a tractor and you spin all around the junkyard, and Mater sings you a variety of wonderful songs, the soundtrack of which is available on Apple Music.
Didn't you like get your car checked or something and it was on or something? Or was that me?
Actually,
I think that happened to me.
That was
you.
Oh my
God.
Well, I was going to say that sounds like something that would happen to me.
That's on brand for you. I think I was listening to the Disneyland CD back in like 2014, and I was dropping off my car, and Mater was on when I got it back, and I was like, oh, well, I hope they enjoyed.
I hope they enjoyed. It's phenomenal music. I'm so proud of you. I was literally like, did that happen to me? And I'm like racking my brain. Like, sounds like something I would do, but I don't remember doing that. It's just a funny ride. And again, with the holiday overlays, all of Cars Land transforms both for Halloween and Christmas time. And Mater's Junkyard Jamboree has a Halloween soundtrack, a Christmas soundtrack, if you were raised Catholic, you understand what this means, an ordinary time soundtrack. And they are all spectacular. It's just a fun ride. Like, go on it. It never has a long wait. So you're literally spending 5 minutes of your life, and you will thank me later, unless you get motion sickness and then don't. But
yeah, it does whip you a little bit.
It whips you around a little, but it is a riotously good time. And then as you kind of continue into Cars Land, you really get into sort of this like main hub area where you will find the collection of cozy cones at the Cozy Cone Motel, which are these gigantic traffic cones filled with deliciousness. All things that come in cones, ice cream cones, pop cone.
Isn't it chili cone carne?
And chili cone carne. There's like mac and cheese in a cone. They'll usually do some like fun seasonal ones as well. But yeah, the like chili in the bread cone when it's kind of cold outside, it just hits differently. It's definitely like Disneyland comfort food at its finest. And then across the way from the Cozy Cone Motel is my favorite building in Cars Land, and that is Flo's V8 Cafe. It is minty green and like lilac pastels. It is a 1950s diner to a T. At nighttime, it lights up in neon. It is so cute, and the food is actually delicious. It's definitely like a fun take on a lot of those like classic diner comforts. You would just expect Danny Zuko and the T-Birds to walk in at any moment and Sandy to be sitting in a poodle skirt drinking a milkshake. It's just that vibe, and it's so fun. Then there are 2 more attractions in this land. That's the other thing. This land is not big. There are 3 heavy hitter attractions here. And one of them is arguably one of the most popular rides at Disneyland, which is Radiator Springs Racers. And then the other one, this attraction also transforms for each holiday season. There's a Halloween version, there's a Christmas version, there's a normal time version. And It is Luigi and Guido singing you some Mambo Italiano while you spin around in your very own 1950s style convertible. Again, if you don't like spinny things, this probably won't be for you, but it's a trackless ride. It's so much fun. You're singing Funiculi Funicula or some other like very niche, like a Cars version of the Tarantella. If you are Italian or if you have a soul, you will love this ride.
An affinity for Italian culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it is that all the cars are choreographed. So they are, like Kristen said, trackless, but they are choreographed to synchronized dance around the whole
they're dancing
space. They dance together, so you're gonna notice like they all go in sync while you're just sitting in this car like having a great time. It's so much fun.
It's like an Italian square dance. Something to note too is that every day at dusk they'll play Shaboom, and one by one, each building in Cars Land will light up with these like phenomenal neon lights. And so it just totally transforms the land from day to night. And it becomes an experience that you absolutely have to see at both times of day. And it's just so much fun. And on the off chance that it does rain, it's so cool to see all the puddles on the ground with the neon lights reflected. And if you're into photography, you can definitely get some cool shots.
That's exactly what I was thinking. People on Instagram take some really good photos in Cars Land when it rains.
So if you walk past the side of Flo's V8 Cafe and on the other side, you will see Radiator Springs Racers. There's this really beautiful pathway alongside the sort of like rock work of Ornament Valley. And you kind of go underneath this tunnel, and through there on the other side is the Pacific Wharf, which is the homage at Disney California Adventure to the Bay Area, to San Francisco and the surrounding area. There are no attractions here, but at certain times of the year, there is live music, and there are a few kind of like quick service style restaurants, as well as kind of a replica of the Ghirardelli soda fountain that you will find in San Francisco.
I'm just thinking back to my college program there. I would get on a rainy day. Rainy days at Disneyland are a vibe, if you guys haven't noticed.
Yeah, it's because they're so few and far between.
Yeah, you remember them. But I would go to Ghirardelli and get a salted caramel hot chocolate and just walk around the park. And it was the coziest thing ever. So I just have really happy memories there. Pacific Wharf overall has some really great options. I really like it there. I think notably Pacific Wharf Cafe with all of the bread bowls and soups and chowders, clam chowder in a bread bowl. I mean, can you go wrong?
No, you
absolutely not.
And they make all of the sourdough there every day, and they'll do like fun
little tours.
They'll do, you can do a tour of the bakery, which is really cool. But they also do like all the fun, different like loaves of bread at different times. They've done like Mickey shaped sourdough. They've done one that was Captain America's shield that I may not have purchased. So they've done fun ones. I'll have a souvenir that's a carb. Bring it on.
I'm bringing home a loaf of bread.
Honestly, we expect nothing less from me. There is the Lucky Fortune Cookery that does kind of covering a spectrum of Asian flavors there.
American Chinese food.
Yeah. Basically. And then across the way is what is it?
Cocina Cucamonga is the Mexican. Yeah. It's the Mexican style option. One of my probably most visited quick services in California Adventure on my college program. They just had really good tacos. And I think the other thing to really mention about this whole Pacific Wharf area is there's so much seating. There's so much outdoor seating.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I like it because all of them are right around each other. You know, you can all sit together, but everyone can get something from somewhere else, which if you just need to like sit down and get something to eat really quickly.
Yeah.
It's again, and I know we said this in the Disneyland episode, but the fast casual genre of food is so well done at Disneyland. Such a better variety, I think, than Walt Disney World, and kind of all in one area. So that's
I think they know. I think they know. Like if you're there with a big family and you've got a bunch of different tastes, Pacific Wharf is probably where you want to grab lunch because then everybody can find something that they like there.
We were traveling down the Golden Coast of California from the Bay Area to, I feel like, Santa Monica, Venice Beach, all of those, to find ourselves at Pixar Pier, which you may know as Paradise Pier, but has undergone a rebrand, if you will, in recent years. And it is now a dedication to all things Pixar, with the bones of the pier still remaining the same. It's definitely still a celebration of those like California coastline summer times, but dedicated to all things Pixar. And I don't think we can talk about Pixar Pier without talking about Lamplight Lounge.
Yeah.
Let's go there first.
So Lamplight Lounge used to be known as, oh my God, what was it called?
Ariel's Grotto. Are you kidding me?
No, the bar.
Oh, the bar area oh gosh. I forgot that they were two separate things.
Cove Bar.
Yes,
Cove
Ariel's
Bar.
Grotto and the Cove Bar.
Cove Bar was the spot in California Adventure. Everyone went to get a Mickey's Fun Wheel, which was a colorful alcoholic drink. And then the lobster nachos were the number one hit of Cove Bar. These lines for this bar were 2-3 hours long. It was absurd. And people would wait. I've waited.
And this was before
crazy.
The virtual queue, my friends. So the Lamplight Lounge is absolutely one of the best redesigns that Disney has done of a restaurant space, I think. It is a celebration of so many different Pixar films, but very tastefully done. There's concept art and exposed brick memorabilia from the different films. And it's like understated and refined, but still very much a celebration of Pixar. And so then that atmosphere carries out into the area that used to be the Cove Bar, which is very much still that same like beautiful patio space where you can look out over Pixar Pier. And in the evening, the views of the sunset from there are stunning. The drinks have all been rethemed to different nods to Pixar films. There's a lot of really fun ones. Definitely still embodies that same like whimsical feel. And the menu items that everyone loved from the Cove Bar, I think it's important to note, have remained. They have added some things, but the lobster nachos remain. And that is what matters. The lobster nachos are where it's at. They're phenomenal.
I don't even like nachos.
I think it's because they are not like covered in a disgusting amount of cheese. And there's plenty of serranos and pico de gallo on top. So there's like a fresh component that I think a lot of nachos miss out on. I'm getting really technical here. And also they do not skimp on the lobster. And for like $23, it is a big portion and quite a bit of lobster. So if you want to go with some friends, maybe you're going to have dinner in a little bit, but you just want a snack to tide you over and a drink, that's a great spot.
Before we move on from food, the other thing I really want to mention quickly is that you can get Jack Jack Num Num cookies on Pixar Pier. I almost said Paradise Pier, which we talked about a lot in our Disney's Hollywood Studios episode. Yes. But this is where they started, and they were so popular here that they brought them out to Florida. Attraction-wise, there's just so many fun things to see. I would say, I mean, let's just go all in. The ride that you're not going to miss is Incredicoaster. And that is the big wooden roller coaster that is the whole backdrop of Pixar Pier. Was originally called California Screamin', so it's still that in my head, but it has been rethemed now to have some Incredibles characters sprinkled in, and it's pretty cute. I haven't been on it in a while, so I don't fully remember the details because I think I only got to do it once.
Yeah, I loved California Screamin' because I loved that whole vibe. I loved the Neil Patrick Harris narration. I just loved the whole thing. There are a couple of roller coasters that I will just always do, regardless of how they make me feel and like physically. And Incredicoaster is definitely one of them. I just like, regardless if you like the Incredibles or not, it still maintains that whole vibe, and you still get these incredible views of California Adventure and of the pier and everything like while you're riding around, and it's just fun to scream your head off sometimes and
get it out.
I think it's great. It's definitely like a focal point of the pier. It's definitely, I think, even just hearing people like screaming on the coaster is such an contribution to the ambiance of being there. So It's really fun. And again, like, while everything has kind of this Pixar overlay, like everything from, Incredicoaster to the little like kiosks where you get like churros and ice cream and stuff. Now it's like Buzz Lightyear's churros, and like Spanish mode Buzz is selling churros, and the abominable snowman from Monsters Inc. is selling ice cream or snow cones, but it still maintains that same like kind of outdoor fair by the beach feel. So it's still a lot of fun. And there is still the Mickey's Fun Wheel, which is now called Pixar Pal Around. It is what I like to call, and I know so many people like to refer to it as the Mickey's Fun Wheel of Death, because
I do as well, actually.
Well, there are normal Ferris wheel, gondolas, if you will, that you just sit in and they go gently around. If you're not afraid of heights, it's a great view of the park. But if you really feel like
unhinged,
honestly, if you're feeling chaotic, if Mercury is in retrograde, or if you're just a glutton for punishment, the swinging gondolas. You remember that toy from the 90s that was like the metal pronged thing, and it had the little wheel on it with the spokes on either side, and you held it and you went like this. I'm doing kind of a figure 8 motion with my hand, and it swung back and forth along the thing, and you had to keep it on the. No, Jess is looking at me like I'm crazy. Somebody out there is going to know what this toy is. That's what it does to you. You are swinging back and forth on this like pendulum thing, but every time you get to the end, you sort of like swing out, and it feels like you're going to fall to your death every time. And also it puts your stomach in your throat. So by the time you get off, you are nauseous. Unless you're one of those really hardcore people that feels no pain, in which case, have a nice time.
I like the stationary one. I've actually done the swinging side multiple times.
Me too.
If you just got to scream and just like laugh about how terrifying it is, because it really is. It's literally unhinged.
The most recent time I did it, I was like, I'm not even scared, because I've done it several times before, and I wasn't scared. I was just nauseous the whole time. I think like of all the things that could cause you motion sickness, if you are a nauseous on rides person, save yourself. It's so going to be over for you at that point.
It's kind of crazy.
Much more my speed is next door to the Pixar Pal Around, and it is the Silly Symphony Swings, and it is that classic ride where you get in the swing like at your county fair, only it's way bigger and way taller, and you swing around to the sounds of the Silly Symphony cartoons. And again, it's a great view of the park, and I think it's just a fun, nostalgic sort of like being a kid again ride, like nothing fancy, nothing overstated, but just very much a part of that like beachfront boardwalk, summertime vibe.
Yes, but be aware, if there's even a slight gust of wind in the air, they do close down the Silly Symphony swings, and I've ran into that several times.
Yes.
Same with the Golden Zephyr, which is like a rocket spinning ride that is similar, but
I always skip that one. I forgot that existed. That and the Goofy's Sky School ride, which is like the primeval whirl of Disneyland, basically.
Yeah, there's a whole variety of attractions that those are very much like on the pier boardwalk fair type rides.
Yes.
But they do also have Toy Story Mania on Pixar Pier, which Toy Story Mania on Pixar Pier is exactly the same as Toy Story Mania at Hollywood Studios, minus the queue. That's different. If you love that ride there, you're going to love it here. It's a bunch of fun. I love Toy Story Mania. If you want my hacks to Toy Story Mania, listen to our Hollywood Studios episode. We're going to link it in the show notes for you, because we've
referenced that one a few times.
Yeah. I mean, California Adventure and Hollywood Studios, I feel like, are cousins. So
they are.
So if you want those tips, go to that episode. But it's a blast. I mean, will always be one of my all-time favorite rides. So I'm glad it's on both coasts.
Oh, one more attraction to note, actually. They do have their version of the Little Mermaid ride at DCA.
Again, same ride, different queue.
Yeah. And the building is beautiful. But before we leave Pixar Pier, there's one glaringly obvious thing we need to talk about.
Glaringly.
Like the reason I breathe.
The reason DCA.
Basically, my reasons for going to DCA, if I had to like strip it down, would be Cars Land and this. And it is coming back. And that's part of the reason we've dedicated the month of April to talking about Disneyland, because we've wanted to talk about Disneyland since we started ReDIScover back in 2020. But Disneyland was closed, as everyone knows, for a very long time. And then once it reopened, we wanted to kind of wait until things started to look like normal again. And recently, Disneyland announced that all of their phenomenal nighttime entertainment is coming back. And with that means the return of the one and only World of Color. And I'm just so excited for all of like the joy and magic that people are going to feel watching this incredible show.
I'm going to cry.
It is Disney storytelling at its finest. It is seamlessly written and arranged. The music is incredible. The water projections are insane. The colors are stunning. There are no pyrotechnics involved in the show at all, and you would never know it because it is absolutely enamoring, totally stunning, an absolute must do.
Of Disney's California Adventure.
And top do must do. There are usually 2 shows every night. The second one tends to be a little less crowded than the first if you can stay awake for it and you're not too jet lagged. I cannot say enough good things. It is perfect. I could watch it every night of my life.
Yeah. And World of Color is interesting because they've had a bunch of overlays for it. They'll do a holiday overlay. They've done the 60th overlay. They do it all. But the original version of World of Color is the best version.
Down.
You can't beat it. They have everything from they've got Pirates of the Caribbean. They've got Pocahontas. They've got a song from Enchanted. They've got Finding Nemo. Like, it's just like from all eras, all movies. And the way that the music is composed, it just flows together so well. I sometimes will hear it in my head when I'm just listening to the normal songs. I'll hear the transition from World of Color. You can watch it from the opposite side of Pixar Pier, so like kind of near the Little Mermaid ride on that area, or on the bridge going into Pixar Pier. And the water projections, you'll just see them coming up and they'll project the movie scenes onto them. And like Kristen said, they're just so vivid and they match all the lighting on the Ferris wheel to it. And it's just the best. It was one of my falling in love with Disneyland moments for sure.
Yeah. So memorable, and it will make you fall in love with Disney. Like, if any show I think can convert someone into a Disney lover, I think it's World of Color.
I agree.
Just phenomenally done. It takes every element of human emotion that we connect to these stories and these characters that bring something out in us, and it just is this unifying, beautiful thing. And I love it so much. It is the crowning jewel of Disney California Adventure.
And that's why it's so successful. It gets into the emotion. And I think that's where, Disney shows come and go, but the ones that really stick with you are the ones that tap into the emotion the way that World of Color does. Producers of the future, you have a great example. Make us feel like we feel when we watch World of Color.
Just make me cry, Disney.
That's all I want. I just need a good cry.
Just want you to make me cry.
We have one more section of DCA to cover before we go today. And that section is called Grizzly Peak. There are a few things here at Grizzly Peak that are worth mentioning. I think number one, this is actually the portion of the park that connects to Grand Californian, the resort. If you stay on property at Disney's Grand Californian Resort, you can actually, number one, some of the rooms can see into the park, which is so cool. And number two, there is a special entrance from the resort into DCA, into this portion of the park, which is highly convenient. This is like a super perk, especially if you're going back for a nap midday.
The Grand Californian Hotel is my favorite hotel at Disneyland. For many reasons, but one of them is that entrance. It's so convenient. It's like too easy, especially at the end of the night when you're tired, or if you just want to pop back for a nap, pop back to grab something, change your clothes, whatever. It takes minutes. It's amazing, especially as like a Walt Disney World local or someone who's used to having to get on a bus or some form of transportation to get back to the hotel and having to like allot an hour of your day for just the travel back and forth. This is blissful, but this whole area
do not have a resort that is that close at Walt Disney World.
Even the Epcot resorts that are walkable to Epcot still take longer than this does. It is right. It just drops you right in the middle of the park. It's amazing. And it's such a continuation of the theme of the Grand Californian Hotel. It's this very woodsy kind of Northern California national parks, you know, big, tall, like redwood trees, think very rustic. The whole like Grizzly Peak area is like this mountainside, and it's just such a separation from anything else in the park. It, you know, you have the desert area of Radiator Springs, and you've got, you know, the kind of like beachfront vibe at Pixar Pier. And then suddenly you're like in the wilderness, and it is like what we were saying about how each land feels so distinct. And this one, I think, is your nature reprieve. I really do like walking around, especially early in the morning on the little trails that they have. It's just quiet, and there's nature sounds, and there's these big, tall, beautiful trees to mimic the California redwoods. And it's just gorgeous. And there are a couple of attractions. There is the Grizzly River Run, which is like a water raft ride, similar to Cali River Rapids at Animal Kingdom,
but better.
The times that you can ride it are more infrequent than the times that you can ride it at Animal Kingdom, just because it does cool off at night in California generally. So summertime or during the day is the best time to be getting drenched if that's your thing. And
if you're staying at Grand California.
Or if you're staying at, yes, you can go change after. That's so true. And then the other attraction is Soarin'. The same attraction that you know and love from Epcot is also over there as well. If you just really love Soarin', or if you're with people who have never experienced it before.
Soarin' at Disney California Adventure was actually the original. So for the 50th anniversary of Disneyland, that's actually when Walt Disney World got it at Epcot, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I remember when that was a huge thing.
Yeah.
But Soarin' was the attraction I worked at during the 60th anniversary of Disneyland. And I think the main notable difference, the attraction is essentially the same. Again, the queue is very different. Whereas in Epcot, the cast members are wearing those blue, like aviation airline suits. And it's very travel-y. It's very, I don't know, modern looking and sleek. Whereas the California Adventure Soarin' is very much aviation focused. The queue has a bunch of planes, and the music is very California
triumphant.
Wilderness Lodge. Yeah, it is. It is
very Wilderness Lodge.
Yeah, it's that Pacific Northwest feel. I love that. I remember opening the attraction and listening to that music loop in the morning. Oh my gosh, it's so empowering. You feel like you're on top of the world.
Yeah.
I would listen to it too when I was applying to Disney jobs and stuff, because it just makes you feel really strong and empowered and like you're going off on an adventure. But and yeah, the other thing was that the cast members wear, instead of those blue aviation suits, they wear khaki, like long sleeve khaki,
like a jumpsuit type,
like a khaki jumpsuit with patches on it.
Very Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart. Yes.
Yeah. Which I did not expect when I got the role there. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Where is my blazer?
Exactly. But then, I love Jungle Cruise when I worked there. So I was like, well, if I work in California, I just always wear khaki, apparently.
We are just I'm a khaki stan.
That, I believe, is the full circle tour. And it's so funny because California Adventure seems like a small park. Thank you guys for your patience on our delay on releasing this episode. We were going to split it up into two, but now you get the whole thing in one. So who's the real winner here?
Yeah, that concludes our month-long trip to Disneyland. That's a really long time to be at Disneyland, but I'm not mad about it.
It was so fun. And I hear that we inspired at least one person to book a trip
Yes,
with
yes.
these episodes. So
Should we do a little shout out to my friends Daniel and Natana, who have a sweet little girl named Shayna, and I think she's about to go on her first Disneyland trip because of this episode, because he reached out and said, well, you've influenced us because we are booking a Disneyland trip after listening to the Disneyland episode. So I was honored, and I immediately had to tell Jess. I'm sure they're so excited, and I'm so excited for them because she is like the perfect age to just get thrilled about all the things. So
it's going to be so fun. If you guys are listening, have the best trip.
Yeah. I cannot wait to see pics. I am so thrilled when any of you reach out to us and say anything along those lines about any episode that we do, whether you want to share a memory or a story. I know we got some of those after the Disneyland episode, or if you just
fun facts,
want to throw in a fun fact, or just tell us what you think. We love to hear from you. We love to feel like we're continuing the conversation outside of this space. We are excited to hear what you've got to say. And we're also excited because May is coming up. I cannot believe it's going to be May.
I can't believe
it's
almost my
May.
It's almost 5:08.
It's almost birthday. The international holiday.
It's the international holiday 5:08.
Yes, May is coming. And I don't know if any of you have noticed on the old calendar, but there are not one, not two, but 3 Tuesdays in May, which means you're getting a bonus episode next month. We are doing 3 episodes. Yes, there will be a theme. No, we're not going to tell you what it is. You have to come back to hear about that next week.
Oh, it's next week. And you guys are going to be happy it's only 1 week, because our kickoff episode for May, some of you are really going to love it.
It is super exciting. So funny. Really inspiring.
We have a guest.
We have a special guest. And we have actually 2 special guests for the month of May, and we are going to be talking about some really exciting stuff with some really fascinating human beings. So,
so excited. I'm hyped for May.
It's going to be a great month and a bonus episode. I mean, what more could you want?
Exactly. So thank you guys so much for being here today. I really, really loved being able to go to Disneyland with you all. Finally, our ReDIScover fam went out to the West Coast, and it was a blast. So I hope you learned some things. I hope you felt like you were there, and I'm sure we'll go back out there again someday in some capacity, because Disneyland will always hold a special place in our hearts. If you liked this episode, be sure to share it on social media or with the ones you love, and come back in just 7 days next week for our first episode of May. And
it's going to be a jolly good time.
It really will. With that being said, cheers, cheerio. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of ReDIScover.
If you haven't already subscribed, hit that button and join the ReDIScover fam.
If you're like us and you have opinions about everything, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. Your positivity inspires our creativity, and we love hearing from you.
Join us every other Tuesday for brand new episodes full of rediscovery.
And each month has its own unique theme, so be sure to catch them all.
Follow us on Instagram at positively.kristen and at jessicafay508.
And check out Jess's blog at theroadjesstraveled with 1l.com.
Until next time,
bye!